which is the first level of security as Deanna explained. And then following that, they'll have to enter their PIN and move on to the biometric part of the recognition process. They'll provide their signature, and as that is occurring, facial recognition will occur simultaneously. And also, if one fails, but one is accepted, fingerprint will be available. But one has to be accepted so that they can move on to an alternating fingerprint. And the final part of the transaction is they'll have to confirm that the amount is right, and it'll complete the transaction once all the steps of security are completed. The database that we're going to use is just going to be flat files containing all the information I mentioned earlier, and they're just going to be in folders corresponding to each user. There's going to be two separate databases. One's going to be active for those that are currently active accounts, and they will contain all the information I mentioned that will be through the enrollment process. The other database will be from canceled accounts. The most secure information will be deleted, but will still contain the basic information about the user and transaction history, so we can look back if there's any problems and figure out what happened at what time and what day.
Here's the overall system design, like a network design of our system. As you can see, there's a whole system that's connected up to the internet, and the database will be connected. The administrator can access the access point, and the user can access the access point. Administrator for changing settings, as we spoke about before, and the user, of course, to use it. Then there's the administrator interface, which is where they log in, and they provide a username and a password. And then also, they will provide a fingerprint to be validated into the system. Since we're using biometrics, we might as well secure it that way too, so not just anybody can get it. But for the purposes of when we're designing this, we may also, due to cost constraints, we may be using the same access point for the administrator and the user, because it would be really expensive to build two separate ones with all the hardware we have to use. This is the user access point of design. As you can see, there's going to be a fingerprint scanner hooked up to it, and a camera and a signature pad and a smart card reader. The camera will be positioned so that when the person is signing on the signature pad, it simultaneously takes a picture of them, so that they don't have to consciously stand there and acquire their face and everything. It just happens at the same time. Try to help speed up the transaction. And then our expected outcomes are to try to secure banking transactions and reduce fraud, because the statistics that Thomas pointed out earlier really shows you that there's a need to secure things. And for credit card companies, they may want to put the liability back on the user instead of themselves if somebody says it's them, but it's really not. We want to develop a user-friendly system. You don't want to make it too complicated when you go up there. You don't want to have them struggling to, line their face and everything else. We want to get cost-effective, so it could be used for future applications, like if a bank wanted to implement for their ATMs even, or something like that, just to help secure the different transactions. You don't want it to cost too much and be outrageous. We want to try to implement it without having to make many changes to our system. Of course, there's always the potential that you may have to change something along the design process or the actual implementation process, but we want to try to keep it as close to our recs and specs and design documents as we possibly can. And we also want to gain first-hand knowledge working with all these things together, the hardware, the software, and developing a system as a whole, because that's really critical for when you get out and get a real job and everything.
Are there any questions?
Will this system just be used for grocery stores, or will it be expanded onto possibly when you're making internet purchases? Because unless a person has a camera or a writing pad, how would the biometrics be able to be entered in for security?
Right now, it's just going to be physical transactions. We're not worrying about doing online transactions because, like you said, that would be too hard to implement biometrics into that.
Although there are our user access point for what we are doing in our scope of our system, we have all of our devices, the fingerprint scanner, the signature recognition camera, those are all USB connected, so they are possible to incorporate into that later on if somebody would want to do that. But that's just not in the scope of our system for this design project.
I remember probably seeing the movie, somebody wore a latex glove with the fingerprint of somebody else already etched on it. Is that just for the movie? I just cannot be done?
Well, most fingerprint scanners have liveliness detection, so they'll detect if it's actually like a live fingerprint or if it's a copy of something like a latex glove or whatever, because I don't know for sure how to do it, but they have liveliness detection, and I've tested it to make sure that you can.
There's always a chance that somebody can fool one of the modalities, but the reason why we're doing multimodal is because it increases the accuracy tremendously. And with the 3 different levels, there's not much of a chance that somebody can go through can spoof all 3 different levels.
Now, is anybody using this multi-level security already in any setup?
Not in like this aspect for like transactions, like
for commercial.
But
government agencies use them or
for,
building
like,
secure access.
control and stuff.
What if people don't want to share their fingerprints with their credit card company?
And they don't sign up for the system, and that transfers the liability back onto the user, or onto the user. The company says you have to use this, or else we're not liable for your transaction. If somebody goes and you say that they stole your information and they rack up $5,000 against you, then there's nothing you can do. It's your fault for not signing up.
So wait, the user enrolls and they're liable, or
If the user would refuse to enroll, if the company would mandate that they enroll, then they would be liable for it. Because the credit card companies are clearly trying to, hedge their losses with this. They don't want to,
A lot of the times when you see fraud, the process is so long drawn out that they can't even recover the money, so the companies actually lose the money. So sooner or later, they're going to be investing in something like this to protect them, not just the users. So they may come to a point where they'll force people to use something like this to protect themselves.
That's all at the discretion of the bank or a company using it too. That's not really something we can mandate.
Okay, thank you very much.